everybody. It is Kathy, and joining me is Dave DiBartolomeo.
Hello.
Dave used to work for the USPS, which is why I've had him come join me. So come in, come in, come in. Everybody gets settled. And while you're settling in, I'm going to talk about the weather as I typically do. It was pretty good here today. I ran out and did my errands, dropped my mail. So yay. Let us know that you can hear us. And just quickly, I'm a top-rated seller. I'm Kathy Terrell. Hey, Sharon, how are you? Selling on eBay for well over 15 years. Certainly gone through a lot of different things with eBay over the years. I sold during Superstorm Sandy. I sold after 9/11. I've sold through anthrax scares. So I've been through a lot of different shipping things. But the reason I brought Dave on, and I'm going to introduce him, cold and clear in Illinois. Good, Sharon. Is first of all, Dave is an excellent eBay seller and friend.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Dave. Very experienced, been selling on eBay a long time. And Dave really brings unique perspective to the shipping situation, which is why I've got him in with us today. Because Dave used to work for the USPS. It was actually his full-time job, which he worked while he was scaling his eBay business. And then he left USPS, United States Postal System, to go full-time eBay. So I am going to let Dave introduce himself, and then we're going to talk about what on earth is going on with shipping. And Dave's going to let us know, and what we as sellers can proactively do. And I wanted Dave's suggestion because he has the unique perspective of having worked for the USPS and in a major shipping area because he was in New Jersey. And he's an eBay seller, so he understands both sides. So, Dave, explain to everybody what you did with USPS.
Sure. So I have over 20 years experience with the Postal Service. I started off as a clerk, worked as a carrier for many years, worked into management as a supervisor. Then I ran the Atlantic City Post Office, then worked my way up to distribution. I was in the distribution center. I fully understand the process.
What is distribution? Because we know carriers and we know the guys in the post office, but we have no idea what distribution is.
Right. So when you mail your package off at the Postal Service, it gets picked up later that day and transported to the distribution center where they break down all the mail and reroute it to the direction it needs to go. So in every area that we live in, there's one close by somewhere.
Now, you're in South Jersey, correct?
That's correct. Right outside of Philadelphia.
And your distribution center you worked at is where?
In Belmar, which is about maybe 5 minutes outside of Philadelphia. And then there's one, of course, in Philadelphia. Yeah.
So you were at the Belmar distribution center. You were a manager there?
That's correct.
The mail that went to Belmar, where is it coming from? All of South Jersey? Did you also get Pennsylvania mail or just Jersey mail?
Well, typically, and I say typically because this has been an untypical season, and we'll get into that. Typically, zip codes are assigned a distribution center. So you have a series of zip codes that will be assigned to one distribution center. So all the packages, letters, everything that mails out within a day gets collected, transported by 18-wheel trailers. They take it to the distribution center. Workers then receive it, break it down, and then ship it out to transportation such as flights or ground services.
Now, the distribution center where you were a manager, how many employees typically were there?
So many that I couldn't even tell you how many were there. It was a very large space with a very large workforce, and I was assigned to a certain amount of employees. So I had 40 people that I worked with in a certain group that was assigned to certain tasks.
So when we different sellers are in different situations, but let's say you're going to the post office with your eBay mail, you drop off your eBay mail and it's scanned at the post office. From there, it's going to a distribution center that's assigned for that zip code. Like, for instance, I'm in New York City. I know mine is in Jersey City.
That's correct.
I can see the journey. From there, if it's going overseas, obviously it's going overseas. If it's going within the U.S., what does it do? It goes to another distribution center?
So what'll typically happen if it's going to be transportation like air services, what a lot of people don't know is that commercial flights that we use every day, they also transport mail. So you'll have packages, you'll have mail. That's one of the advantages that the Postal Service has with distribution networks is they don't have their own fleet of planes. They get to use commercial airlines. So what'll happen is now that we're talking about distribution in Belmar or in Philadelphia, those will get collected. And if they need air transportation, they'll go over to the Philadelphia International Airport and they'll get routed there and sent on their way to the next distribution center.
Now, hang on a second. By air, you mean it's going from there like to Chicago or to California?
That's correct.
It's going a ways. It's
That's
rather
correct.
than it's going to New York. I'm trying to think of something fairly close. Connecticut.
That's correct.
You know, okay. So it has to fly to get to wherever it's going.
That's correct. So let's take one example and we'll say I mailed something here in Williamstown, New Jersey, and it goes to Belmar. So it gets scanned at Williamstown. That's your first scan. That starts the clock. The clock is how long it takes to get from here to there. So your first scan is at the post office. The second scan is when it arrives at the distribution center. And you'll see that on the tracking information that it arrived, for my example, Belmar, New Jersey distribution. It'll say on the tracking. It'll then say departed. That means it's left the distribution center and it's met its fulfillment, whether it's air or ground services, to go to the next location. When it arrives at the next location, it'll arrive at the next distribution center, let's say Chicago. So now you'll see arrived at Chicago Distribution Center. You'll then see a scan that says processed. You'll now see a scan.
So hang on, it arrives at the distribution center and it's processed in the distribution center.
That's correct.
And then what do I see?
So then what you'll see is departed the distribution center, and then you'll see arrived at local unit. That is your post office destination. That is
so
the
there's
end
three
destination.
scans in the distribution center where it's going. Let's say it's going to Chicago.
That's
so
correct.
It arrives Chicago, it's received Chicago, then it departs Chicago, and then it's en route to customer.
So it'll go to the local post office, whatever zip code it's assigned to in Chicago. Chicago, I'm sure, is broken down into, I don't know, 10, 20 different, you know. So it'll get accepted into the local post office. You'll see arrive local unit. Then you'll see out for delivery. That means it is now in the carrier's hand. It's been sorted to him or her. They take it out and delivery scan at the end of the day.
Okay.
Process.
So it's scanned at the original post office, wherever that is, you know, New Jersey, Arizona, you know, Nevada, wherever I am. Then it goes to a distribution center. It's arrived, received, and then departs.
Yes.
And it goes to the distribution center where the area that the item's going to go to, let it be Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. And again, arrived, received, departs, goes to the local post office, and then out for delivery, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So when you see the out for delivery,
it's like,
it may take a little bit of time, but keep in mind that all scans by the carrier are GPS located. So what happens is when the carrier scans it delivered, they scan it delivered, it marks a point on Google Maps for the Postal Service to look up. So if you call them and say, hey, I want you to track this and tell me exactly where it was delivered, do not take no for an answer. They can, in fact, look this up. They can look this up. It is on a Google map. It'll have a dot. It'll say it was delivered to 123 Main Street at 3:42 p.m. So you can see specifically where it went to. So when a buyer says, hey, it says it was delivered, but I don't have it, you can contact the Postal Service and get record of that.
Interesting. Now, what would I do, Dave? I'd contact my local post office, my manager at my local post office?
That's correct. The only caveat to that is if it is an apartment complex, sometimes we have one location, like just a mail room or something like that, it'll be scanned to the mail room. So that'll be the one issue where, you know, you could have a buyer say, hey, look, I didn't get this. I live in an apartment. I know it says I got this, but I think somebody else received it.
That makes sense. Like here in New York City with these big high rises, I see them come in literally almost a truckload of mail for these buildings. And I'm sure there's like a mail room concierge person is receiving all this mail, not going up to the. Now, question, Dave, because this is the big one that's getting eBay sellers. And I know you've got your share of these too.
It's been bad. Yep.
When it says in transit. So it has some kind of scan at the beginning. It's been received by the post office, or it's managed to get to, what I call it shipping hubs. It's managed to get somewhere, but then it says in transit. Okay. So you
Right.
have one scan, maybe two scans, and then in transit with no update, nothing.
Right.
For a week, 10
Correct.
days. What is going on?
Yeah, what's going on? And believe me, I'm dealing with this too, but I can interpret what the scan means. So when it says it's in transit, so it left Belmar.
Okay.
Using Belmar, our local area, as an example, it left Belmar, it's in transit. You're not going to see another scan until it gets accepted at that next distribution center. And what we're seeing right now is that there are trailers upon trailers backed up with packages, and they are not receiving them with the normal capacity that they would. So it's the example of, say, you have a marble hole and one marble goes through at a time, but all of a sudden you have 10,000 marbles trying to go through that one hole. It can only go so fast. So the machinery can only accept so much at a time. And as we all know, with 3 billion packages going through this holiday season, there's a significant backup.
Now, when they're backed up like that, literally the trucks just sit there with all the mail?
The trucks just sit there with all the mail. It gets to the point where the machinery cannot handle what needs to be processed. And with the pandemic, you have to realize that you're talking about a workforce of about 400,000 employees. And with that, you do have some COVID situations. You have some where certain areas might be closed down and cleaned up for a day, or one employee tested positive. Now you have to quarantine the surrounding employees. So there really is a lot of that happening right now. It doesn't get publicized, but it is happening. And that will also create.
And that's true in all businesses, Dave. It's not just, I mean, with USPS, it's impacting our mail, and we want to know what's going on with our mail, but that's happening everywhere, which is when you have it happen, you have to shut down. You just do when somebody tests positive. Do you know, I realize I'm putting you on the spot and you haven't worked for the USPS for a while. Do you know, for instance, like behind the scenes in these distribution centers, I would assume they have to be 6 feet apart from each other. I'm assuming all these restrictions, they've got to wear masks, because I see them at my post office. They're in masks, they're in gloves. I know the tellers is the wrong way, but I wish they go back. But the
window
agents, they've got plastic barriers up
correct
between each agent. And when they're moving around in the back, I see too, they're really doing their best to distance from each other. So I'm assuming there's less people back there too than normal.
So one of the things that I heard at our local post office, I'm still, since I ship from this area, I also work there. I know a lot of the people there. One of the things they did to deal with this was staggered shifts. So you may have carriers coming in at 5 a.m. and leaving to go out to the street to deliver at 8 a.m. and then another set of employees coming in, and they're spaced out, distancing. So a lot of measures have been put into place, and with that, you're going to have a great disruption in the way everything has been done over the last X amount of years.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Before we go to the USPS site, when I have a package, so back to New Jersey, and you're shipping, let's just say from New Jersey to Florida.
Right.
And so it gets scanned in New Jersey, and then for some reason it goes to California.
That's right.
And then it goes from California to Chicago.
Right.
And then it goes to Texas. And then it goes to Florida. What on earth is going on? Why is this package boomeranging around all over the place?
And that's such a difficult thing to explain and understand to the buyer. But what's really happening there is that it's rerouting. Okay. So maybe it had to go to Houston, but Houston is putting up the flag saying, hey, look, we're completely overwhelmed. We don't have any flights that can handle this. Well, let's reroute it to Chicago. But when it gets to Chicago, now it needs to maybe go through Georgia and then back over to Houston again. So you have a lot of bouncing around taking place. And what dictates that really is the automation. So when you see your package, you'll usually see a little barcode that gets sprayed on there. It might be fluorescent pink. It might be black. It's a little barcode. But what that does is it tells the automated machinery which way to send this. And if there is just too much going to one area, they will start to reroute it. So So you use Jersey City for an example. Philadelphia became so blocked, and it's such a mess, and it's such a mess today. I'm still looking up orders from November, that they switched it off to Trenton. And then Trenton became overwhelmed, and then they switched it off to Jersey City, which is completely overwhelmed. So you really have the entire system is logged up right now.
I get. Now, when we were talking about, and I wanted to bring it up because some sellers know about this, but some sellers don't. So please don't feel like I'm ever talking down to you. I just want to include everybody and not assume that you know something. And if you do, just go, yeah, it's good that you know it. Now, we do get delivery. There's a delivery confirmation number when you're shipping on eBay that shows, because you're using USPS. Also true for FedEx and UPS, but we're sticking to USPS today because Dave was a manager with USPS. In addition to the information we're getting on eBay, it's also a good idea to go on the US. So somebody messages you. So let's say Dave is my customer and he has messaged me and he bought something from me. I'm going to go really outside the thing here. November 25th, and I'm going to date this video. It's December 28th, so it's been over a month.
Yeah.
And we're going to say that I'm in New York, and we're going to say Dave is in Texas. So he messages me through eBay messages, which is always how you communicate with your buyer. Do not allow messaging to go out of eBay. Keep all your messages in eBay. And this is because if for any reason you have to bring in customer service, they must see the messages just in case you have a buyer get abusive. You want also sometimes sellers get abusive, but let's just say for a buyer, everything in eBay messages, and so Dave messages me, hey, I bought, I'm going to pick something. I bought a pen from you over a month ago. Where is it? So I'll show them the delivery confirmation through eBay and what it says. I can click on it. They get all the shipping information. In addition, when a customer starts to message you, I personally don't do this until they start to message me. Now at this holiday season, I have so many packages that are late. I literally just went through manually and pulled everything that hasn't been delivered, and I did this. Go to the USPS website where it says search or track packages.
Correct.
Copy and paste the delivery confirmation number. Anything first class, priority, or express will have this. The only thing that does not have a delivery confirmation number on it or a tracking number is something with a stamp on it. Okay. If for some reason you mail something with a stamp, you can't track it. You click search or track. It gives you the information that's on eBay. And then it will give you the option to get updates. You have two choices, email or text. Now, Dave likes text. I like email. But the thing is, you will get, if it budges, if it's like Dave was explaining, it's accepted, it's received, and then it goes on to the next center. It's received at the local post office, then it goes out for delivery. All of that journey, you can get emailed to you or texted to you. Now, Dave, if someone's contacted you, so let's say the shoe's on the other foot, it's Kathy, and I'm going, Dave, where's my pen? Every time it moves, do you message that buyer and say, I noticed your package moved and now it's wherever it is? Do you tell them that or not?
Right. So what I do is the process you just explained. I go on the USPS website, I cut and paste the tracking, I put it in there, and you'll see more detailed information than really you can see on any of the selling platforms. So you can go in there, you'll see more detailed information. And what you can do is say, hey, look, this is the last point. Your order is in transit. There are delays. eBay's aware of it. USPS is aware of it. There's warnings on their own website. But you can at least give the buyer some updated information and say, hey, look, it's now at your distribution facility. It'll say it's Chicago accepted distribution facility. And maybe it's been there for 7 days, 8 days, 10 days. You can say, hey, look, there's a delay in that distribution facility. It will clear. You will receive it. If you want to start a return after that, whatever your return policy is, the buyer can do that. Just assure them that, hey, look, it is in transit. It will clear. These are unusual times. You will receive it. And when you do, there's also policies in place. If you missed Christmas and the giftee where you're giving it to, and you want to start a return, you can go ahead and do that. But you'll have that tracking information to provide to the buyer. So I'll send them that. But really, I'm not going to keep sending them more and more and more. I'm not going to stir
Okay, so
the
you just
pot.
send it to them that
One
first time,
one time.
and then that's it. But then you get the updates, so then I know, like my inbox is jammed with them. Like I'll see, oh good, that thing is finally moving.
Yeah.
I'll see that it's gotten delivered, so I know that they're okay.
Yeah, so to put a little icing on top of the cupcake, at the end, you just kind of say, "Hey, look, I'm glad to see, your order's been delivered. I hope all is well. Enjoy," and leave it at that. Just
Yeah,
put a nice little note on it at the end because the buyer is upset.
Yes.
Hey, look, I thought I
Yeah.
was going to get this in 3 days. Come on. It's 2020. So you didn't get it in 3 days. Maybe it took 3 weeks. It's an unfortunate circumstance. It's not the buyer's fault. It's not the seller's fault. And really, it's not even the Postal Service's fault. It's just the surge.
times.
It's the surge of online activity coupled with the decrease in employee force. So it is what it is. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of being communicative.
Yeah.
What I'm with Dave is I don't ping my buyers unless they message me.
That's correct.
So I personally have gone through everything that's late. I've gone on the USPS site. Let me show that again in case you missed it. So I've gone on the USPS site and I've entered them all and signed up for updates just so that I can see there. And actually, interestingly enough, Dave, was December 26th. All I know is the postal workers must have been working like.
I'm seeing the same thing. You're seeing that too?
December 26th, I had this explosion of, I'm like, yay! You know what I mean? Like, boom, everything started moving. I was like, yay.
I also am seeing the same thing. December 26th, everything that didn't make it there, and there's been no scans for a week, all of a sudden they were out for delivery 26th. Yeah, seeing the same thing.
Now, one last thing before I let you go, because we brought this up. I've had this. Now, first of all, for me, is most of my buyers have been fantastic. They totally get it. Some are disappointed, which I totally get too, because I've got holiday packages that haven't gotten here yet. They're like, oh, I'm so bummed. I really wanted it for Christmas. And I'm like, I totally understand. I'm so sorry. I think like what Dave said, I mean, just being empathetic rather than, well, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it. It's just being like, you know what, I hear you, and I'm so sorry it's delayed. Just goes a long way.
Right.
Be sort of kind and compassionate. But I do have one buyer who has left me a negative. Like, I'm furious that their item, and it is late. It's almost 3 weeks now. I totally get it. So I got the negative. I was like, and Dave said the same thing happened. So I pinged customer service because eBay has promised to protect us. And the negative says, I bought this for Christmas. It's not here, and left me negative. So it's clearly about shipping. It's not an item, not as described. It's about the shipping. So the eBay protection, because I didn't read the fine print, is eBay will protect us from negatives that are over the delayed shipping. They have promised that. It's on the eBay announcement board, so go look. But this is the fun part. It will not get cleared off the way it's stated currently until the item shows arrived. Right now, the item's not arrived. It's still in transit. I checked. Once the item is arrived, it has an arrival scan, then I can go on to eBay and ask for the negative to be removed, but not in advance, even if it's showing movement, because that's what I was checking, Dave. Even if it shows movement, they will not remove it, and it hurts because I don't like that negative. They will not remove the negative until the item arrives. Now, you're in the same situation, right?
Same situation even today. I just have to make sure that the order has been delivered. Once it's delivered, I can go in, contact eBay to remove the defect or the feedback and show that it was delivered, and it'll get removed probably same day. I know that they're overwhelmed right now. But really, the system's pretty quick. I did it this morning. It's Monday morning, and it was already removed. So
good.
I mean, that is the process. Just make sure that you don't appeal the negative feedback before the delivery, because they're going to turn it down. And then you'll have to call up and go through customer service that way. So just wait until it's delivered. It is painful. You don't want it there. It annoys you every time you look at it, but it is what it is. It'll go away. And when we get back, just real quick, we were talking about, writing an empathetic letter to your buyer. Really, one of the things you can do to take the stress off yourself is write out a cut and paste response.
Excellent.
So leave yourself a little order ID number space, buyer number space, whatever, but write out an empathetic response and cut and paste it and fill in the little blanks. It'll save you time. It'll save you aggravation.
Yep.
And also try to wait a little bit before you respond back to a buyer who is upset. Because if you respond right away and think, wow, I'm responding right away, I'm helping them out. But you'll find a lot of times when somebody's really upset and they're irrational and you respond right away, you're going to stay on that path of irrationality. You got to give it a little bit of time. Respond back with the empathetic letter. It'll get resolved. Everything will be fine. The sun will come up tomorrow and they'll get their package. Yeah.
When the negative feedback I did get, I did reply because I wanted to do that so that if people are scanning feedback, they can see that I'm a responsive seller. And again, not attacking the buyer because they are upset because their package isn't there yet. And what I said was USPS shows item in transit. Delays of USPS are not in seller's control. Sorry, because you only have a certain amount of space.
You only have so many.
Just so that you can show the response, which is, and I think just about everybody knows because it's been everywhere in the news, is that there are massive delays. Just about everybody's experiencing them on some level, but that they see a response rather than the negative with absolutely no response, and not something like attacking the buyer, like, don't you know there's a delay? Just going on. I'm sorry. I mean, you know what I mean? And like Dave said, then as soon as it does show arrived, and I am checking this one daily, that then I can go and ask for it to be removed. But like what Dave said, don't ask until it has the arrival scan because it will be automatically denied. And you don't want to be in that. And you are protected, by the way, as far as those of us that are top rated sellers, that your reputation is protected. And again, the eBay Seller Announcement Board, which is an eBay community, is always the place to check for what protections are in place, if there's any kind of update to the protections, because it's coming from eBay. Not that we don't love our fellow sellers, but that it's coming from eBay. That's right. What the protections are. Dave, you're the best. Thank you for explaining like the whole journey, and also when things go all over the place.
Yeah.
Going on, because especially now with COVID, things can be, and also with weather, things can get rerouted because of that. And the idea is to get the package there. But that's interesting that you saw the same thing, because I'm not kidding you. December 26th,
same
30 packages that are late right now. There's this explosion of activity. I was like,
yeah, exactly. And the priority mail was a mess unto itself. They get handled separately. They don't go with the first class. They get handled separately. So when that system got overwhelmed, that whole 1 to 3 day that a buyer usually receives it in, that also got backed up. So yeah, everybody remain calm. It will work itself out, but there are some techniques we talked about today that you can use as far as doing cut and paste things, using the Postal Service website to get text or email updates, and ways to assure your buyer they'll receive it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me, Dave. Everybody, thank you so much. I'm Kathy. This is Dave, and we love to be selling. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.